Hello, guys, and welcome to the MOV podcast, Mad Over Videos by Guch. Today completes 25 episodes, so it's very interesting for us as a journey. It has been awesome from starting this during the pandemic, uh, turning our offline flagship conference into an online property, and then getting amazing guests this year across the globe, not just from India. So, with that trend, we today have someone from a company that everybody looks up to when it comes to marketing or uh, like for anything. Like I think that's the first website that you open, and that is Google. So we are joined by Sandeep Ramesh, who is the head of partner marketing for Google in uh, I think Latin America and South America. I would like to add Sandeep to the stream and continue the conversation. So please welcome Sandeep.
Hi.
Hi
Hello.
Sandeep.
How are you?
I'm doing really well. Thank you so much for taking our time and joining us on the podcast.
My pleasure.
So, Sandeep, I think you've spent 15 plus years in sales and marketing. You spent time at CPG brands. You've done B2C and B2B both. You've coached high performance teams, right? You're also an angel investor. So there are so many dimensions, and I couldn't cover everything in the introduction. So if you could give me a brief about your journey till date and how these 15 years of magic have been in your life.
Thank you for that introduction. Okay, I'm just going to make it quite simple in the way that I can sort of describe the journey. I started my career with Hindustan Unilever. That was quite some time back, like I said, 15 years back. So as a business management trainee, business leadership trainee, and then I was there for the first 8 years of my career, and I did a bunch of roles there, like most people do there. You do
Yeah.
sales, and then you do marketing, and even within marketing, you do brand building, brand development, two kinds of different roles, and then led multiple brands and categories with those roles. After 8 years there, I shifted to completely a different industry, from CPG to tech, but essentially it was in the revenue space. So which means that I worked with Google in the CPG vertical, which was fundamentally responsible for going and evangelizing digital at that point in time to
Yeah.
companies like Unilever. So it wasn't that much of a stretch, or it wasn't that difficult. It was had to go back and convince people like myself why they should invest more in digital. Very interesting stories there. And then I led the media and entertainment vertical in Google. After that, again, quite a shift, and then it was at the it was at the inflection point of OTT ecosystem in India. So again, it was quite an experience to go and convince OTTs why they need to invest with Google, and not look at us as competition, to actually improve the performance, or sort of acquire consumers. Um, since then, my current role is in the US. I lead partners marketing for America, so North America and Latin America. This is totally different. This is not B2C marketing, neither is it sales. It is marketing, but it is fundamentally ads marketing. So it is about convincing uh, or building programs that scale to a large number of small agencies in the US, to why they need to invest in digital, and how we can help them do that. The US is a far more evolved digital marketing ecosystem, so they're at a slightly different stage than India is right now. But the challenges are fairly similar. That you still need a large number of agencies to be supported, as well as they need to be in the loop for what's the best way that they can go and pitch Google products to their clients. So that's my current role right now. I I also do a bit of investing. I'm not a prolific angel investor. I do a bit of investing. I only work with startups and industries that I understand. So I work with D2C, which I feel I have a good head around because of the fact that I understand brand marketing in the way that traditionally it used to happen in CPG. I also understand digital, and D2C is sort of something that needs to straddle both of them. I understand media, of course. I understand OTT. So these are some of the industries that I sort of dabble in terms of investing, and I help these guys out.
Right. I think when you defined your journey with Google and the digital ecosystem that Google owns, there are so many aspects to it. But in particular, I've seen you being very passionate about the medium of videos. So I want to ask you the question: why is Sandeep mad over videos?
That's a good question to ask. Why shouldn't anyone be mad over videos? Is my retort to that. I look. Uh, Over the years, the best way of telling a story is in person, right? You go to someone, you tell them a story. That is the best way to build a message from person A to person B. Now you can't do that at scale. The closest that you can do at scale one to many is in the form of a video. Any other form of messaging is a dilutive experience, and it's not going to be as effective. So, which is why you would see that since the time video has come on the scene, and I'm not talking about online video, I'm talking about TV itself. Since the time the video medium has come on the scene, it's sort of dominated the way we communicate. And I can't in the foreseeable future see a format, maybe I could be proved wrong, that could be even more immersive than this, but it will be involving some form of video itself. Because it is the closest to simulating real life. And anything that's closer to simulating real life will be the most effective in sort of communicating a message or telling a story. Which is probably why I'm mad over videos.
Awesome, because you just mentioned about the time when videos and advertising was about television, and today you are seeing brands target their consumers on handheld devices, uh, and with like immense accuracy because you have so much data around it. Being and watching this from close quarters at Google, what do you think? How has the evolution been from the TV era to the digital era?
Well, it's been quite a journey, and I can tell you from the prism of large advertisers in India. Because that's the prism I've been closest to. And I remember when I was a brand manager in marketing, there was literally like there was no digital. This is 2009, 2010. There was no digital. Yeah, I went to search for some of my old ads that I had done, and it's not even on the YouTube channel of the brand. It's with some creator, etc. So it was that disorganized, I would say. I mean, in hindsight, at that point in time, it wasn't very relevant. And I remember the first beginnings of movement to from TV to online video happened primarily because the reason to shift to an online video medium was from a creative standpoint. For the first
Right.
time, people felt that they didn't need to be constrained to a 30-second version of the videos, and they could then explore the creativity. And the art directors and the creative directors got really excited that this was a medium where they could make long form ads and long form content, and they got really excited by that. And for maybe 2011, 2012, 2013, a lot of, if you see, online video advertising was, at least with the large companies, was long form creative videos that
Right.
were not essentially in line with their mainstream TVC campaigns or with their mainstream television campaigns. It was very different. Gave them a canvas which was much longer at the starting point. I
And
don't
the
know.
briefs were variably different. The briefs that were also given to the creators were also very different.
Yes, absolutely. The briefs always used to be make something obviously go viral. Famously, uh,
Asila Bhagat.
yeah, the go viral, make it emotional, make it long, and some really good work did come out, right? But it was not. It was very different from their mainstream advertising strategy, which was a big difference. I mean, we can play one of those. If you play the Lifebuoy ones, one of the first ones that was the
Yeah.
long form, you can see that it's playing to that brief.
Yes. Let me
Um,
let me play that video before you tell me more about it.
इधर आ। मेरा बच्चा 5 साल का हो गया।
इतना सब 5 साल में कौन सी बड़ी बात है?
बड़ी बात है मैडम, ये गुंडापा का पहला बच्चा है जो 5 साल की उम्र तक पहुंचा है।
क्या?
Yeah, so if you look at this, obviously it's an amazing creative. It's an award-winning creative. I don't have to
Yeah.
comment on the quality of the creative and the message that it delivers. But you can see that the objective that was used was to build brand love and overall the brand favorability for Lifebuoy. If you look at potentially Lifebuoy's core television ads that was used to build the differentiation on hygiene or germ kill, it would be very different. It would have, 5 seconds faster hand wash or whatever else it is. Look, I was manager on Lifebuoy, so I wouldn't want to take too many liberties, but I can say from an outside perspective that this was they would be using digital to build brand fame, a different agenda. Um, and and I think a lot of the experimentation at that point in time with digital was that can we use this to be something different that television could not do, which is longer format, engage with the creators even more, two-way communication. All these things were at that point in time the
Yeah.
buzzwords, right?
Yeah.
Two-way communication. You can engage with your users even more. You can get feedback and a lot of that, which were all absolutely brilliant ideas at that point in time. And we'll come to it in hindsight how it is progressed. I think one of the other things that I remember being closely involved with from when I was at Google was working with Unilever on building a site called Be Beautiful, and of course a bunch of vloggers. And at that time, the beauty creator ecosystem was just starting out, right? Some of the people that you will see in the campaign in Be Beautiful were the first time vloggers in YouTube. And it was just one of those things where Unilever said that can we try and become a beauty publisher itself, and can we sustain that and not be a forced push advertising. You can play we did a case study with them. You can play that and you can see how um, the beginnings of digital advertising started on YouTube.
Sure. I'll put that right.
Hi guys! So today I'm going to do something that's really special. It's my hair care routine.
We now have 35 video bloggers who blog quite regularly. We've got more than 100 videos online on YouTube.
So, like I said, that was again the beginnings of can FMCG advertisers become publishers and creators themselves, and it was this entire phrase of content. We need to start making content, and content needs to be engaging, and that's the only way to make advertising. Um, Now, of course, at that point in time, that was the prevalent thought that advertising has changed completely, and what used to be said in 30 seconds now needs to be said in long form, and we need to start making these kind of creatives. Now, obviously, since then, we've now moved on to a situation where you know um, it was still not core to the strategy of the brand. It was still something that you did outside of it, and I would give this analogy that there are, let's say, there are two trains going in equal speeds, right? And The only problem is, that one train is going to have a longer runway. The train that you're in is going to have a shorter runway. So the track is, you can see that the end is somewhere in the horizon, but you can see that the other train, is going to go faster, and it's going to keep going longer. But you don't see the end inside, so you think this is perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with what I'm doing. And the right time to jump is only when the track has come to an end in this train. So you jump at the very last moment. The mistake that people make when they jump at the last moment is that the people who have jumped earlier have gone to the first compartment of the train. They've learned a lot more about how to be in the train. They've sort of built their credentials on how to be in that new train. That's exactly what happened in the TV and digital era, because the people who at one point in time, 2011, 2012, 2014, it was like you could make that leap to digital and still be even Stevens, like in the sense that it would make a big difference to your results. You could make that leap. And the people who made that leap in the beginning started getting better and better at making digital videos and made for YouTube videos, and even Facebook, Instagram. But the people who waited for the track to end had to jump, when Geo happened. And when Geo happened was when suddenly you started seeing, hey, there's this medium that is giving me more reach than TV in some 3 or 4 cities. First, it started like that. It's giving more. Oh, this is serious. This is now a medium that we now should be using for reach. And then it was sort of and then it was this avalanche of reach that now you have the biggest companies in the world that are digital advertising, and everybody then jumped ship. But the people who had made that shift earlier, they were far ahead, and people realized that it takes about it took us 30 years to master TV advertising. It's going to take us at least 3 to 4 years to master the digital medium, especially when it's changing so quickly. So I think the people who made the shift earlier obviously are much ahead in the game, and they've seen the big benefits of that. I think very similar to the companies that were ahead of the game in remote working. When that some of the tech companies, etc., were already doing 1-2 days a week remote working, etc. And when the shift happened during COVID, it wasn't that difficult for them versus the companies that had never done remote working, where everybody had to figure out how to set up Zoom or Google Meet, or whatever else it was. So that's the difference. Like the learning there was that, look, if you see a trend that you clearly see is the trend going forward in the future, jump on it right now, because you're going to get that benefit of being ahead of the curve.
Right. Not just digital. I mean, the whole video transformation itself saw the same pattern, right? People were thinking of video as always good to have kind of an asset for their brand, and typically it used to be that one video on your landing page or your homepage, or like I said, bigger brands would have that one TVC. But today you see that video is needed in every business function. Like you don't only talk about video when it comes to marketing or advertising. You're talking about sales, you need video. You're talking about product, you need video. Customer success needs video. So the whole idea that, hey, this is something that we will do when time comes. Time actually came, and they're already behind. You see that most people are now trying to catch up on, whereas most brands which actually invested in video as one of their primary communication channels have succeeded.
Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, that's the same. That's true for even people who are not investing in video. I must say that some of the blame for that should go to also the folks who are supposed to make it easier to make videos. So I mean, happily take the blame on, you could take the blame on YouTube itself, or any of the tools that are. So it is still much easier to make a digital search ad and a display ad than making a video communication. That is true. It is more difficult, but I think technology, especially TikTok. I know TikTok's banned in India right now, but I use it a lot in the US, and it's easily growing fast. They have shown that by making it easier to create videos, you can explode. I mean, that opportunity can explode dramatically.
True. I mean, like that blame is not just with the platform. I think it's also with the creators, like you said. And typically these used to be larger agencies, conglomerates of creative. I mean, traditionally, who always projected that, hey, this is an expensive affair. But today you have a smartphone which can do so many amazing videos. I think a bunch of videos or ads that even Google puts out on TV are shot, are created using videos that are shot on mobiles, right? So this whole democratization of video creation has changed this particular aspect. And the second thing is, yes, people are also aware of the process now, that hey, it is not very expensive and complex, unlike previously, when you needed only large cameras to shoot, or say like you needed elaborate setups to shoot an ad or whatever. Today, depending on what you want to create, I think there are easier ways to do that as well.
Yeah. So, if you were to talk about how the creative aspect of that has evolved, right? So from TV to mobile. Um, Look, what remains the same when you're making a TVC and you're making a digital ad is the fact that storytelling, the power of a story, emotional benefit, uh,
Yeah.
communicating a benefit versus communicating a feature. All of these things are basics that are required in any format. Uh,
Right.
what changed from when it went online video was that um, you had a skippable format, and therefore you need to get people's attention in the beginning. The story arc, the story arc changes. The story arc in a traditional 30-second, when you know the person is with you for the 30 seconds, is very different. So you start out very slow. You set the context. If you go to any, the big agencies, traditional agencies, they will still tell you that you set up the context right till the very end, and then you finally go to the climax, and then the product shot comes right at the end, because there's no point in setting up the product shot right at the beginning. They'll swear by this diktat, right?
Yeah.
But and that's changed. The story arc has changed, not only because of the skippable format, but because people's attention is much lesser. The one thing that people don't realize is that you think that on television you have somebody's attention for 30 seconds,
Correct.
but the second screen is a big reality. People are on their phones already when the TV when the ad comes on. So some of the basics that are required when making an online video or a digital video ad, which is to say that you need to frame it tighter. The shots have to be much faster.
Yeah.
You need to be more close up, because somebody's watching it on the phone. You don't want it to be a distant. You want everything to be close up. Things like the fourth wall, which is like speaking to the viewer, like looking at the camera and speaking to the viewer. Now, these are some of the things that were basics that people had to learn to change when they moved from TV to video. But now I feel that some of these truths or some of these insights are true even for making a TVC. Like, you definitely need to get the brand and the most important thing right up front in the first 5 seconds, even if it's a TVC, because the guy's not going to be looking at the TV for too long. You need those tighter frames and faster shots and those close-ups and everything, even on television. So I think the creative agencies have been the last to change, kicking and screaming, because they're still in the thinking that, this is the story arc. This is what I've grown up listening to in terms of story arc. This is how I know how to present a TVC. I want a big screen to present the TVC, even when I'm showcasing it to the client, and all of those things. And it's been quite a journey to change that. And I'm happy to say that some of the new age companies that are coming up, especially the ones that are funded by VCs, they are pushing them to do digital creatives much faster and much ahead of everybody else, and therefore the creative ecosystem had to change. And some of the new age agencies that are coming up, they make really good videos. I mean, I like Swiggy, for example. They make really good videos that are appropriate. I like Cult, Mintra, all of these folks. The folks that they hire, they are very clued on to what's happening, or how to shoot today in a digital world.
True. I mean, like I think we spoke about the strategy aspect, but we've not touched upon the deployment and the audience, how they have been reacting. Because typically, when you look at behaviors on like of audience watching television ads versus mobile ads, television ads typically used to always be in between. Say if you're watching sports, it could be, if you're watching cricket, it could be in between overs, and if it was a movie or a daily soap, then it would be again in between two segments. And it used to, typical behavior of the audience is to use that to take a loo break, or go, if it is working like a house maker, she would go attend to something, food item that is being cooked. And this is how it has been. So and today, when you're looking at digital ads, you're going to be inserting these ads while they are consuming something, and these are very short form, right? They're typically 5 to 10 to 15 seconds. So the audience behavior itself is different, and you need to target both of these audiences very differently.
We've done, Google has done a lot of research, meta research, data analysis and research on, what really does it take to go into, and to be fair, digital online video is still, 8 to 10 years old. So there is a lot of research as opposed to, 40 years of television data that you have. So there is some data that, and there's tons of metadata that's available with Google. And we have this team called Unskippable Labs that does it. So you should probably play that video, which is a good explainer to what Google has found as insights for creatives.
Sure.
We see the opportunity to evolve the visual language that's used in ads, and some of these are very simple. Tighter framing, faster pacing, use of large type supers, brightness and contrast. The second opportunity we see is around narrative structure, and it's building for attention. So you need to give them, we say, dessert first, or a punch in the face. A thing at the beginning that is like, there's a reason I should pay attention to this. The third opportunity is tuning for audience. Making creative choices to reflect who you are and what you're interested in improves creative response significantly. The last is, how are you sequencing ads, and what are the right mixtures of formats and forms, and how do you best deploy creative and media assets for maximum impact?
Yeah, so like we discussed some of the earlier parts, right? Like getting the tighter framing and stuff like that. But from a creative and media deployment strategy, there are a lot more things that are very effective today. For example, I also worked a lot with movies, and I find them very fascinating, and how I moved from CPG to movie marketing. Obviously, movie marketing is far more interesting, than just selling soap. So movie marketing has a lot more science to it than I would ever thought there was, because you think that the job of a trailer, or job of making a trailer, lies with the director and not with the marketing folks. But every movie has a certain audience that comes along with it. And what kind of audience it attracts depends a lot on what the trailer is portraying the movie as. So one of the things that a director will always, or rather a movie marketer will always think of is that, what kind of genre is the trailer slotting my movie into? Like, do I want this trailer to be slotting me into a romance genre? Because people look at the trailer for 30 seconds and they figure the movie is for them or not. This one has too much romance. The guys, the men will be turned away from it, and then, or this has too much violence, and the women may not like it, or this is too much horror, and a lot of people are not attracted to horror, and vice versa. So invariably, what happens is that if you see a trailer, especially Indian movie trailers, they have everything, and you will have a song, you will have everything, because they want to make sure that they're not putting off any particular type of audience. They want to say, you know what, this has this for you, this has this for you. They're appealing to everyone. But the advantage that we saw when we worked with movie studios is that, and especially Hollywood studios who are far more amenable to attracting, amenable to experimenting with new strategies, was that you could actually make different trailers for different folks. I mean, the main trailer goes out organically. You can't control who watches it. But a lot of paid marketing advertising can actually control who watches which trailer. So we've had situations in the past where, I worked on Thor, I worked on some of the superhero movies, where they would definitely amp up any romantic angle and target the women for it, and they would amp up the action angle and target the men for it. Because just to say that this is an action movie, but it's got enough romance for you to be interested. The core of it is a love story, so you still be interested in it. Or to tell the men that there's enough action in this. It may be a love story, but there's enough action in this for you to come. And that made a dramatic impact on selecting for audience and tweaking your trailer according to which audience is looking at it. And that was an example from movies, but you can then imagine how multiple brands and multiple companies can then look at, I can now segment my audience the way I want. I can segment my audience the way I want my creative to be deployed to. And you can see that in the metadata. If you look at some of the studies that Google has done, there is a dramatically significant uplift when you actually customize your communication for the audience that you're targeting. That's a big change that's happened.
Absolutely. I think the very important point that you brought up was that you cannot change the way the audience thinks, but you can change the messaging from your end. You can create separate messages, and like you said, one size doesn't fit all. These are two very important learnings that I'd like to take away from that answer. Going on to the next question, I want to know, as per you, what is the future of brand marketing in online video? Like, we've seen it evolve. We've spoken partly about it in some of our previous answers, but I want to know what is the future aspect.
Those are my favorite topics to speak about, because it's one of those that's less explored, I feel, because even today, I think one of the biggest problems that exists in the marketing ecosystem is that the brand marketing and performance marketing is siloed. So you will have typically an organization where there will be a CMO who will overlook everything, and they will have someone who leads brand marketing, who is in charge of building, who is in charge of making quote unquote brand marketing creatives, and maybe do it. And the obvious definition is that then they're in charge of offline media, and then there is somebody who's in performance marketing who then becomes digital media. So and it's unfortunate because it's a misnomer, because it's supposed to be brand and performance. It's not supposed to be offline and online. And then what happens is that because you're now hiring people who know offline for your brand marketing, there is very little brand marketing that happens on online video. And that's an unfortunate outcome of some of the structures that we put in place today. But if you look at how this can become even more robust, and how you can make the future of brand marketing is actually online, it's by looking at some of the basics that require to be done in terms of getting a good creative going, right? So if you look at some of the examples that I worked with in terms of movie marketing itself, is that, let's take the example of, if you have if your final transaction for your business is happening online, then online video marketing actually completes the loop very well. I'll tell you why. One of the most important quotes that you've heard in the past is 50% of marketing of advertising works. We don't know which 50%. However, in performance and search marketing, you don't have that problem anymore, because it's click-throughs and stuff. So you actually know who's doing it. This entire movement from correlation to causality, which is to say that when I put a certain amount of money, I know I get results, versus I know exactly who is watching my ad and then going and taking an action, is now possible if you take a business that's online. So I'll give you an example of what we did with movies itself. So with movies, one of the advantages that you could, because a lot of the online of the booking of the movies happens in online, you could now have a situation where the people who watch the trailers, did they go and book the tickets online or not? So you can have direct causal relation between your video and the booking. And that was an important element to actually say that, it's not like an art anymore, it's an actual science, and you can actually use online video much better than you can use offline. And even this, for us to be able to prove it at a significant scale, we had to do a lot of meta analysis and data. And I'm feeling lazy to say what we did, so you can just play the video on the movie marketing that I sort of mentioned earlier itself.
Sure.
Today, it's become the de facto place to discover a movie trailer. Now, we did some data analysis on this, and we took about 200 movies that have launched in the last 2-3 years, and we crunched the data to see if there's any correlation between how the trailer performs on YouTube versus how the movie performs in real life. And here's what we found: the first 7 days of the trailer launch on YouTube, the average watch time of that particular trailer is the single most biggest determinant of the opening box office weekend collections. And it's a 90% correlation.
Yeah, so and this was something that we went out and we spoke to all movie studios, and it was quite stunning data. And then we actually developed something called a box office movie predictor, where we could actually tell the producers, look, we know how the trailer did. So, and trailers come out 2 months before the movies, or a month and a half before the movies. We know what the opening box office collection is going to be. It's no indication of how well the movie will do after the opening weekend. This is just, your trailer is correlated to the opening weekend. It's not correlated to how the movie is, because the trailer determines the opening, and then the movie determines what happens after that. If the movie is going to it'll do well. That's when we got a lot of traction. We got a lot of attention from a lot of movie studios, and then a big shift happened in movie marketing. And if you see, it's covered in the press as well. The movie marketing, if you sort of look at the press screen grab that we have.
So this is by brand equity, and
yeah. So they did a I think a brand equity article on many movie studios and how YouTube is becoming the most preferred marketing tool. And then if you look at some of the stats they showed, we actually had a pretty decent accurate prediction of how the movies would do. Some of the movies that you see here were fairly bang on accurate in terms of what the collections would give. So like I feel like this cemented this thought that and if this can happen in movies, this is potentially a learning for all brand marketers, that what, of course, the nirvana for brand marketers would be if, and this is really in the future, it's a hypothetical framework, but in this particular case, the entire outcome is buying a ticket. So you can capture that outcome and feed it back to the system because it's an online outcome. But if you're buying a soap or if you're buying a shampoo, then it's not captured online, right? What happens? Because I see that in the future, if you're running an online video marketing campaign just to build brand, and you want to see how that is impacting brand, how that's impacting sales, if you build robust databases around where your sale is happening, and if you feed it back to into the system, you can build the backend in such a way that the data is constantly optimizing, the campaign is optimizing, and it'll work better and better and deliver to exactly where it's doing well in terms of sales. Now that's possible in new age G2C companies, right? In legacy CPG companies, it's very difficult to get this IT infrastructure back in place. But if you're a new age G2C company, and if you have the entire data of your sales happening, you need to plug it back, and you need to start making sure that your campaigns start delivering according to what the results are. And that's a beautiful loop, because then you're not wondering which 50% of my campaign is working.
Correct. Now, I think we've elaborated the brand side of marketing. I think the next obvious thing to do is attend to the people who are like so like I don't know, there are people who want to measure everything in marketing, and then these are guys who talk about ROI. So let's talk about performance marketing. Does video How does video affect performance of any brand for that
See, I'd love to talk about the stories of how we exactly worked on this and showed how this could be done. But before that, I want to just talk a little bit about why there is even a question mark on whether videos make a difference, and it all boils down to measurement. If you have a system where or if you have a format where people are clicking through and then making an action, it's not too difficult to measure that. But in-stream video, which is one of the most favored formats, especially for YouTube, where you're watching a video and then another video happens. The consumer habit is not to click at that point in time and buy something. That's not the consumer habit. And therefore you have a problem with measurement. I mean, you need a more reward from a measurement to know somebody has watched the video, and then from a view through, have they finally converted. It's more complex, and it's not something everybody can master. So it becomes much simpler to look for formats that are click-through formats, because it's something that is happening. Um, the only thing I would tell people is that you are missing out on a very effective format just because you don't have a way to measure that format. And this again happens because of the silos of performance marketing and brand marketing. And if there was one person who's involved in both and who's responsible for both delivering sales and also building the brand, it would be a no-brainer to invest in video, because whatever metrics you have in terms of ROI, the moment I tell you that you want engagement and you want you take any business, and if you want a certain number of metrics to deliver, let's say conversions or subscriptions to your particular service, the moment you say that I want something to deliver me 30 subscriptions this month, you will then go for a format that's more click through. But the moment I say, tell me a way for me to deliver 360 subscriptions for the year, right, and you increase that time frame, you will realize that video performs much better. It's essentially because the idea of a video is that you are appealing to somebody's emotions, you're appealing to somebody at a deeper level, and that impact is far higher. The action may not be as quick, right, but it's going to have a bigger impact.
Yeah. So
my direction to everyone who is still doubtful of using video is that don't compromise on an effective medium because you can't measure it.
Right. So Sandeep, here's what I understand. Correct me, I might be wrong here. So I think click through is very obvious. You can attach it to a metric. There's your ROI bang. The other one you spoke about was in stream. Again, like obviously there is a lead time between where he sees the ad to where he's going to maybe purchase, and typically again this process is also not very transparent. Say it might happen with cookies, and you might be able to track for the next 30 days what are his actions, but then every now and then there is this possibility that he or she might be also influenced by some other external factors which cannot be really counted, and that is the reason why people do not have the faith in this. But like if I were to look at it, this is how I would look. If I'm even say 30 days down the line, if I now have the time to make a purchase, and if I have to recollect a particular brand, there are higher chances of me recollecting based on a video that I've watched versus a text that I've read or an image that I've seen.
Absolutely, we fought this battle. So, like I said, one of the things I was involved in is the OTT revolution, and you would think that OTTs would look at YouTube as a big threat because they feel that that's the platform that would take most of their revenue away. But we had the unenviable task of going and convincing the same OTTs that you have to please use YouTube and you'll see results, because video is the best way to drive another video platform. Like, what better audience to get for your OTT content than somebody who's already on a video platform? Like, so it's the best. And we saw some, and exactly when we set up the system such a way that you can measure view throughs and you can see the impact, we had this amazing epiphany called Video Drives Video that showed impact for all OTTs, and that's what we've measured. And in that Think with Google article that you can see, that show up. This is an article that we published on Think with Google, as well as with along with other OTTs, where you could use video very effectively to drive performance. And you can see some of the numbers either with Here, with Woot, with Daily Hunt. With a lot of OTTs, we've done that.
Right.
Yeah.
This
So
is the Woot.
yeah, this is Woot. So all the metrics improved dramatically as when you started using video, just by making sure that your measurement was in place with view throughs.
Right. This is the other slide with.
This is other the many OTTs that work with us and help us to do this.
Correct. And like you said, now this lets me also transition into the next segment that I wanted to be talking about. Again, we've spoken about why like OTTs found it valuable to advertise on YouTube, or sort of try and engage their consumers on a like possible rival out platform, but it turns out that it's not a rival platform. My next question, and something that is very, very not obvious in its own way, is everybody knows Google, right? Like the first thing that you open when you buy a computer, that to check the internet, you open Google. You have a search query in your mind. You're going to go hit google.com and search. Why is Google advertising themselves on TV? I mean, this is a question that a lot of people have asked me. Like, why does Google have to advertise? Everybody knows Google. So, like, you have to answer this for me, because like when you as Google can spend money on video and advertising, then definitely other brands need to.
Okay, so this takes me back to a very simple marketing basics, right? So you have users and you have non-users. Your job of marketing could be to attract or retain users, or to attract non-users. Most of the time, your job is to attract non-users and increase the pie. Where are Google's non-users? Like, where will Google add more users from in India? Like, you have 350 million people on YouTube, you have a certain number of whatever that number is for Google search and all of that. And there are lots of services that are not as big as YouTube in India for Google search. TV is still 750 million in India, right? So if I want to go and get a non-user, I mean, I would ask every single platform that advertising on your own platform is only going to limit you to your users. If you have to go outside and get new users, you have to go outside your platform. I mean, that's a basic media logic, right? So that's if you're talking about delivering a message to its own users, then then that's fine. I mean, and you'll see a lot of, and this is the other fallacy, that Google doesn't spend enough on digital. It spends a significantly higher percentage on digital than any other company does. It's just that when they do anything outside of digital, it gets noticed. But I think there's a sound marketing logic for that. Is that if you have to find new users, you can't be advertising within your own platforms, right?
Correct. So, tell me, this is a question that we're sort of diverting from the marketing audience that might be watching, but what is that you have to say to young content creators? Again, these guys might be creating for brands or for themselves. How do they monetize their content and sort of also grow their audience? What advice do you have?
I can give them advice. They may not like it. So my views on content creation in India. Okay, I've seen that part of the journey where different people try to monetize content. Here's the fundamental truth about content creation. very few companies in the world have made money by making content in history. A lot of people may not like this, but in general, very few companies have made money by making the most. The most profitable company in the history of the world making content is Disney, and their business model is to make brands and IPs, right? So Disney does not work with any content. They work with content where they have the rights to that IP. They build those characters and they build those brands, and they monetize them through many other channels,
Correct.
mostly the merchandise and
Yes.
and through their parks. So
Yeah.
here's the crux of it. So if you are a content creator, the in the long term, the only way to have a profitable business is to build IPs and is to build some sort of brand, right? If you're otherwise you're just in a sea of content. Um, the other way is to make, and this is where the Indian content system today, from monetization standpoint, is stuck at, is that if you want high quality content and if you want to make high quality content and monetize that high quality content today, it's very difficult to do it from an advertising model. The reason it's difficult to do it from an advertising model is because today advertisers are paying for audiences, uh, and they are paying for the intelligence to figure out whether this person just bought a mattress and can I sell him a pillow. That data point is more important whether compared to whether this person is watching Game of Thrones, for example, right? That is not as important for an advertiser. So this entire premium on content, while it'll still be there for live sports and for certain marquee events, you'll still have a huge premium. It's coming down on a day-to-day basis and it's moving towards audiences. So I am happier to pay a higher price for somebody whose behavior I know and will be more likely to convert than what high quality content that person is watching. So that premium is going to go down. But people are still willing to pay for that high quality content themselves. So from a subscription standpoint, if you want to build a high quality content ecosystem, you got to be able to convince the people to pay for it themselves. So that's why I feel like they're going to be two diverging or two different sort of business models where you have high quality, high video production, whatever else you want to call it, high quality content where people are paying subscription. And then you have this user generated content or where the content creation should not be that expensive, but the value lies in the audience actually, which means it lies with the person who's distributing it, the tech companies. So and you have a glut of supply in user generated content. You have an oversupply in that, and therefore if you're an independent content creator who is the first thing is that can you make content that people will pay for themselves? Difficult because people in India generally don't pay for anything online. They expect everything free. The second is that can you then use online platforms to build sources of revenues outside? Like, can you use the platforms to divert and to get people to for you to be able to monetize them outside of the platforms, which is what most content creators today do. Like they use different platforms like Instagram and YouTube and TikTok and other parts of the world to make themselves famous, to build an audience, to create a brand. The money from that may not be able to sustain you, but you got to figure out how you use that fame or the brand that you built over there to then monetize it in many other ways.
Right. So what the bottom line here that I grab from a strategy perspective is that behavioral demographic data, I think, is going to trump psychographics.
You ask any advertiser that what's more important to that advertiser, to know exactly what that person has purchased or to know exactly what that person is likely to be doing, or whether that person has been watching a horror show, or the quality of that show, because an audience is an audience, right? The person is likely to purchase. I mean, unless you can show me data that the person is more likely to purchase my brand because they watch your show, you're not going to be able to prove that. So there are exceptions. Like you can say that, look, if I'm a sportswear brand, and if I take the IPL sponsorship, and over the period of 60 days, somebody is watching me again and again associated with cricket, it's building my brand imagery with cricket. So there are of course many things you could do like that, which is beyond just buying an audience. But
Correct.
but those are very few and far in between, because there aren't too many. By the way, there aren't too many marquee shows on Indian TV today uh, that grab everyone's attention. There's Big Boss and there's IPL, and that's it. I mean, there's cricket, even international cricket, I guess. But there isn't thing that everybody. There's no Ramayana anymore, right?
Correct.
So if there was Ramayana, you should advertise on it. But there isn't any Ramayana anymore.
They did telecast Ramayana during
And
the
I heard it got great GRPs. Yeah.
It did. So I think we've spent quite a lot of time understanding the B2 side of things. B2C, of course, forms a majority of advertising. But I'd like to know, because there would be people watching who'd like to know about the B2B angle as well. What is the role that you see for B2B? Again, typically, this is the common perception that most B2B marketers have, that they don't sort of understand that it is the same person who was at home watching Big Boss or IPL, or for that matter Super Bowl, is now in his office, and also his buying patterns are going to be similar. I think eventually you have to take that perception away, that when you get into a blazer, his buying patterns or the way he thinks is going to change. This is the reason why most marketers, B2B marketers, are blinded and often do mistakes when it comes to strategy in video.
Yeah. So I would I would hope that ideally the difference only lies in the deployment, because the difference between B2C and B2B is that the user is mostly the same in a different context. But it's difficult to reach 100 CXOs, for example, if that's your target audience. If you want to reach 100 CEOs, it's difficult to reach them in any mass medium. It's not possible yet. I don't know if targeting will reach a certain extent where you can even target CEOs, but maybe LinkedIn has something. I don't know. I haven't advertised on LinkedIn yet. Maybe you can on LinkedIn today,
They
but
do, they do.
they do.
You can
Fair enough.
advertise.
So the only reason I feel the only difference that should exist is in the media deployment strategy standpoint, because you have a much smaller audience and you can reach out to them and you can explain it to them much more. So you do have a lot of these offline conferences, and you have all of which has been appended by COVID, by the way. And you realize that all of these people can be reached online now, because you have a year of where you couldn't do any conferences, or you couldn't do any events, or you could do any of those things. And I think now a lot of that new learning is there, that we could actually reach our B2B audiences even without doing any conference or without doing any events. So that is definitely there, and I feel that learning has come into place. From a creative standpoint, I have no idea why it should be any different. I have no idea why one should be less engaging than the other. I have no idea why one should talk about features only. It eludes me, that logic. It can only be because of legacy. And it'll be good if I could play you the Google B2B creative, which I not like I've worked on it, but I feel like they haven't treated it very B2B. They've treated it well. So you can play that.
हमने तुमको देखा, तुमने हमको देखा ऐसे, अरे हमने तुमको देखा, तुमने हमको देखा, अरे हमने तुमको देखा, तुमने हमको देखा ऐसे।
एक्स्ट्रा क्लासेस लगेंगी।
ओके, चेक करते हैं।
जहां उनकी नजर हो, आप वही नजर आओ विद गूगल एड्स। ये आपका एड इंटरेस्टेड खरीदारों को दिखाए ताकि बिजनेस की गाड़ी चलती जाए। गूगल एड्स, इंटरेस्टेड खरीदार लाए हर बार।
Yeah, so it's an interesting way to. This is the kind of business that we want. We want as many people as possible to use Google Ads. Well, it's known to be uh, difficult to understand. It's not that's why you have a lot of experts who come and tell you that I'll do the SCM for you. Hopefully, some of these kind of advertising, which technically is speaking to a large number of people, but it is speaking to quote unquote businesses, and therefore it is still a very engaging, entertaining ad. It will still tick all the boxes that a B2C communication would otherwise do.
Absolutely. It's really refreshing to see that kind of an approach for a business communication put out. So definitely kudos to the person who commissioned it and the person on the creative who happened to execute it. So with that, I think it brings me to the point where I think I have spent enough time picking your brain and trying to understand how you think. But then I'm pretty sure over the last 15 years, you've also spent a lot of time learning from different traits of people that you admire. And I'd like to really know who are the people that you really look up to. This is the right time to do those shout outs.
Oh, there are a ton of people. Of course, I've been privileged to work with most of them because of the pedigree of the companies that I've worked for. I've just been fortunate to work with some of these folks. Of the top of the list is was my former super boss, Rajan Anandan, who was head of Google India, and I was leading media. He was heading Google India. His passion, his style of speaking, his energy, and in fact, one of the reasons that I even got into startups and investing in angel investors because he's like the number one angel investor in India. He started very young, so he's a big inspiration. So big shout out to him. And he's in Secure now, and he's doing his thing with startups. So a big shout out to him for sure. Um, Another person that I admire a lot, I haven't worked very closely, but I have worked with him is in Unilever is Sudhir Sitapati. In fact, he's got a book out. I think he like it's called the CEO Factory, which is it's just talking about how HUL has produced CEOs a lot, and maybe you guys should all read that book. Maybe he'll like me giving a shout out to the book itself. It's an awesome book and how Unilever in India functions very well. He's been the architect of many brilliant campaigns, including Dag Achhe Hai, and he's sort of some sort of legend within Unilever itself. So shout out to Sudhir for sure. Another super boss of mine who's quite popular in any case because he's a twice best-selling author. And when I was the brand manager in Huggies, he was leading Kimberly Clark. Is Prakash Iyer, and I've had he's also distantly related to me, so I've had the pleasure of knowing him and his family really well. He has some of the most amazing insights and wisdom from small stories he picks up from different parts of the world, and then he condenses them in a very easy to understand manner. And he's got two best-selling books, and he's very active on LinkedIn, so shout out to him as well. And lastly, some of the folks I enjoy recently, off late, I enjoyed their work is Spring Marketing Capital. Broadly know Arun and his team a little bit from their days at Low, but I think the work that they have done with startups. So if you look at some of the work that they do with Byju's, or some of the work that they've done with Muscle Blaze, some of those creatives are very contemporary, very suitable to digital, and they understand, and they also have the planning pedigree that old creative agencies have to understand the marketing insight behind it really well. Yeah, I really admire all the work that they've done. So shout out to Spring Marketing Capital as well.
Awesome. I think these are a bunch of folks that we also look up to, and then I hope some of these guys can also make it to the Mad Over Videos podcast and share their insights with us. So we'll ensure that we put this message out to them, and hopefully they'll respond after they see. But with that, I think I would like to bring this episode to an end. It has been an amazing time learning from you. I think some of the best knowledge gems that have come out of Mad Over Videos, I think a bunch of them are from this episode. So we'd really be thankful for you to have taken out time. And I think it's going to be a busy week because you're right now in the middle of Thanksgiving week, and I'm sure it would have been difficult for you to take out time, but we really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Awesome. I didn't realize how much time had gone by. And great. And I'm wishing you guys all the best. And I'm hoping that you'll have your 100th episode and your 200th episode very soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sandeep. It's been a pleasure hosting you, and I hope this is the start of some awesome people from Google coming on to the Mad Over Videos community. We'd like to host you again on our other initiatives that we are going to come up with very soon. So I hope you stick around with us, keep supporting us in our endeavors as well. So with that, we bring this episode to an end. And for everybody else who's watching, I'll see you soon with the next episode. Till then, I think bye bye.
Bye. Thank you.